Hi Ben, nice to hear you. Have you here on stage right now. So CEO of Trustyou, and
Thanks for having me.
yeah, maybe you want to give a short introduction by yourself.
Yeah, first of all, I am not stopping my time as Max, and I have
don't worry, we
haven't prepared a presentation. Yeah, short intro. Ben Jost, I'm CEO and founder of Trustyou. We've been doing this for quite some time. I think 12 years now. We fundamentally believe in one thing, that is, with feedback from your users, from your guests, from your employees, whatever kind of feedback, with that data, you can make pretty good decisions. You can build better products. You can build better services, and that's what we're all about. Like, take all of the feedback that's ever been created and make sense out of it, and then based on that data, make better decisions, and also convince users that you have the best possible product out there.
Quick question, Ben, because I mean, I guess most of the hotels live know Trustyou. I would assume so, and but still, is there maybe a little overview on how big you are, how many hotels you're working with, a little bit on what kind of data you aggregate, and just to give you how many employees do you have? I actually lost track on where Trustyou currently is, and I know that you've been bought a few years ago by Recruit in Japan. So maybe give a bit of a context on where you are currently with your company.
Sure. So a couple of questions there. So number of employees, we're a little bit shy than 200 employees total around the world. We operate in many different offices from US, San Diego, to Singapore, APAC, Tokyo, Japan, headquarters in Munich. We opened this year, we opened Madrid as an engineering hub. We have another hub in Cluj, Romania. So this covers the size. We have about 30,000 hotels that interact with our data from a software as a service perspective. Mm-hmm. We look at data for 800,000 hotels roughly in the entire market. Why that? Because we have also other clients that are non-hotel clients, like Google, Kayak, and other meta search and OTAs like hotels.com, that use our data to make better search or buy, to build better search or buy products. Mm-hmm. So meaning, you can use our data and say, hey, what is the best family hotel in Munich? And based off all the reviews we've been analyzing, we can give you exactly this best rated family hotel. And you can slice and dice this data in many, many different dimensions. We analyze it in more than 25 languages. We look at more than 200 sources. I lost track on how many millions and millions of reviews we analyze each week. Yeah, that's kind of gives you I think a good sense of the scope of what we operate in.
One reason, and we spoke a few days and weeks ago several times, and one reason I wanted to have you here, and you actually, I think you're first time at HTF, right? I never had you on stage, right? So that was about.
No, I was never invited. I don't know. But thanks for thinking.
Maybe I did invite you and you didn't come. I'm not sure, but let's see. Don't dwell on the past.
I'm out of that discussion, please.
Corona changes everything.
I think you would have always come. It's true, yeah. But I think technically, I never considered Trustyou to be a real startup. I think that was.
What a shame. What a shame.
But I think it's more startup is a mentality and not a size part, right? That's completely true. And but one thing you told me about was that you are actually having or monitoring a review index, and that review index is showing obviously the pickup of occupancy in several countries out of the perspective on the amount of reviews that have been written. Yeah, let's put it that way. So and again, today is very much about data, right? And also giving people a bit of a global scope here, and showing people on how different markets potentially act. And I think here, out of a pure data perspective, I think what Trustyou should or must have is huge. So what can you share in terms of your review index? What is it? And maybe some specific data on different countries. And again, if you want to share your screen, I mean, do you have something you want to share, or?
I could share my screen, but it's all red, so it doesn't really matter. I give you the summary. Okay. I give you the summary of what we're seeing. So what we develop is what we call the Global Travel Health Index. What it does is, like, we monitor 800,000 hotels, as I mentioned, so they are across the globe in every country, basically. And the reviews are, as you said, is a good proxy to occupancy, basically, because we know that there's a certain percentage of users or guests that write a review after they stay. It's always a time lag of around 3 days. So there's is that one time lag that we see. So it's not a real-time occupancy at this point, but it's like a 3 to 4 or so days delay. Still, it's a very good proxy of what's going on in the world. I can basically, it's a summary of what of the other speakers that came before me, what they already said. Good news is we cannot go lower than where we are in everywhere in the world, but maybe China and Taiwan. Those are the two countries we see right now at around 20 out of 100 as an index. Globally, we are the 3. The good news is like the trend downwards has stopped. It's like more or less as a 0, but lower than 3 can happen anyway.
So you mean the bottom is reached already?
The bottom is reached. The good news is the bottom is reached. From here on, it can only be better.
You can't go below 0. That's true.
Yeah, so that's the message I want to give everyone. It's like it can only be better, and then we see these positive trends that everyone was talking about before in China, Taiwan. They are around at 20. And also there, they haven't seen a decrease, but like a slight increase over the last couple of weeks.
Can we learn anything from that Asian development for Europe? What do you think? I mean, when you look at those numbers, and obviously they are a few weeks ahead of the crisis, right? So is anything we can take away from there, or do you think that's not comparable? Because Max said it's not really comparable. What do you think?
I think it's comparable in the sense that there have been the first one being on the lockdown, the first one opening up again. So there's just a time lag that I think we are seeing here. So I definitely see that there's going to be. You take Austria as an example. They just announced a concrete date where they will open up hotels again, right? So naturally you will see a pickup there going on, and that's just a time lag that we'll see. I think in generally you will see two countries or two different types of countries. One, they are very heavily depending on international travel, and then ones are heavily depending on domestic travel. Germany, more domestic, right? Heavily depending on domestic travel. I think what was the number, 85% or something. I've heard ones that is just domestic anyway in all the good years. So for those countries, I see like the future is much brighter because where will all the Germans will take their holidays if hotels open up again? They will stay in Germany, most of them, right? And that will benefit hotels. Of course, it's not going to be the same level. Maybe there are some peaks like holiday season, but then business travel will slowly but surely will pick up. It's not going to. I don't think it's going to be on the same level in the next couple of months until we find a vaccine or something like that. But these countries will have a much better health index than the other countries that are relying on international travel.
And what do you think? How will trust as a decision maker will change? So
I think it's very interesting. I mean, internally, we talk about these phases as a company. Now, of course, also for us, we are entering as a new phase after this, or when things open up again. What I mean by that is, I think there are, when there's a big shift in user behavior and a big shift in user experience and user expectation, and we will have that shift, and we already talk about that shift. One thing is very clear: how do you cope for that? How do you prepare for that? How do you offer your services, your products that have to match these expectations from a user perspective? The only way I think you can do this is by feedback, using feedback. So communication and feedback is going to be even more important in the next couple of months than before, because there's a big shift in these expectations. So it's not going to be steady, and the questions, comments, concerns are not going to be the same than the last years. So they change. And so to understand these changes and understand how how do you need to match against these changes, you need to listen to your customers, you need to listen to your guests. So I think for us, that's just going to be an accelerator once the business will open.
Yeah, of course. But maybe you see some different expectations from the user side out of China already?
Not so much. We're not operating. we're not so much operating for domestic Chinese hotels. That's not our turf. Like, we operate international hotels that are operating in China, but they are more relying on the headquarter, what kind of technology they give and deploy. But one of the trends we've been talking about in the last couple of months already before COVID-19 was the idea of more real-time feedback, the shift from post-stay feedback to real-time feedback.
Oh, yeah.
That has already happened. But it was a slow shift. Like, it was a very slow shift. That now the conversations change. Now the conversations are more and more about how can we make sure that once the guest is on site or even pre-stay, we start the conversation. We have a conversation channel open, and we are answering any question, comments, or concerns they might have. And I think that is going to be accelerating, because we will see much more use cases towards this on-site communication where you don't want to walk to the front desk and ask the question or pick up any phone, because millennials even don't know how to operate them. But you want to use your phone and then have a communication channel open. And how do we do this in the most seamless possible way for hotels? That's going to be the big question, the big trend, I think, in the foreseeable future.
Interesting. Is that something you already have in the pipeline, or already have implemented at Trustyou, that you have stuff available for hotels, maybe even with a little bit of a best practice around Corona and COVID?
Yeah, we already have that. We already have testing it. We have testing it for more than hundreds of hotels already out there, and we're going to launch it in a broader launch in May. So a better launch in May for the hotel industry. We also will give this away for free for a foreseeable future to help them get started, and then a broader international launch maybe towards Q3. So we have 3 phases. The first phase, the better launch, is done. The second phase is the broader launch, and then the last phase is going to be in Q3 or so this year.
One thing I'm always interested in at HTF is, obviously, we talk a lot about business, right? We talk a lot about data and technology, but I think one thing I always want to bring across as well is a founder's perspective, right? And you founded Trustyou a long time ago, right? 12 years, I think you said, and I think I want to understand a little bit, how were the last 6 weeks for you, right? I mean, how was your personal, emotional, let's say, development over the last 6 weeks? Because I can imagine that your company is affected like anyone else. I mean, the whole hospitality industry, you see your baby, basically, which is, I think, still your baby, even though you sold your shares, but I guess it's still your vision. And now, obviously, you see a lot of things changing. And how was your, let's say, emotional kind of like development over those last 6-7 weeks, and what was your how was your workload? I mean, because when I look at my personal workload, it was like 80% team and 20% business, and many people always think it's the other way around. But how was yours?
Yeah, so on the workload, like, I think in general the workload was higher than it normally is. There's more things that are not so fun to do, right? It's like where you cut maybe costs, and where it's like salary reduction. I personally took the first one together with the C-level team, before everyone else. Like, all these kind of things are not so fun. There you have to work through. In general, though, my view, and I share this also with my team, is over the last 12 years, I've seen worse from a trusted perspective.
Okay.
Just from I've seen the wall closing in much faster and being very, very close to just like being bankrupt, or this is not working out. You have a much less cash reserves and things like that. So I'm not so concerned about, can we go through this? The question is more about how intelligent, how fast, how resilient can we go through this? And that's also, we took the approach, and it was backed by our shareholder, keep the entire team in place and double down on product development. Because I think survival is going to be a competitive advantage once we get out of this, because there are going to be other companies who cannot afford it or are not going to do it, and they're taking more a negative or a perspective on it. So I think we'll take a very positive perspective on it, also because we very heavily believe that the things we do will have a very immediate benefit for the travel industry and for the hospitality as a whole. So I'm very bullish.
Yeah, I mean, I see. I mean, and that's a founder's view, right? Seeing the opportunities rather than the downsides. And I completely agree. I said that I actually see a lot of things that you just said I've seen myself. So I can completely agree on that. And last question, maybe, what's your personal outlook then? Because I mean, we just talked to Max, and he said, okay, by the end of 2021, we are back at 70% of where we were before. What's your personal opinion on that? What's your maybe your own, let's say, best and worst case scenario at Trustyou? How do you see the industry moving along for the next, let's say, 3 to 18 months?
I just give you my best case scenario. The worst case, like it's all like everything goes down. Everything is like we're not going to be commercial. But it's not going to. If these things happen, it's not going to be us only affected. Then we have a bigger problem as a society, and everyone should go shopping and get the toilet paper again. But the more realistic, positive outlook is, I think, it's till Q3. We won't see a big any pickup, right? So you were maybe a very slight one. Even if they open industry, users guess will be more cautious because they are just like, oh, I don't know, should I really go there? I'm a little bit afraid of. So even then, even if it's allowed to, they won't travel that much. So I think that is a given. They will have to get used to the new fact, how you travel, where to travel, how safe is it to travel. Then I agree with Max. I think in 2021 we'll see a pickup. I don't know though. Is the pickup at 50% or 70%? I wouldn't go above 70% though. I'm more between the 50-70% because of the fact, even if it's allowed, people will be more cautious, and also people will have less money in their pocket because they are affected commercially so much individually. That I think it's. And then what I talk about is like these countries that are relying more on domestic travel will do better than the countries that rely on international travel. So those are the things I see. And then 2022 is probably a year we will see a recovery towards the 80-90% rate. So that's my sense.
Okay, the best case. We have two questions in the chat from Bart, an old colleague from mine from Hilton, and now working for a Chinese hotel company, as far as I remember. He asked one thing because he says, if hotels go out of business, your clients go out of business. Are you not worried about that? So I mean,
of course, I'm worried about that. However, I don't think hotels will go out of. So the vast majority won't go out of business. I think they will. We will see a restart. I don't think. Yes, there will be some maybe going out of business. However, also then some will come back. It's like in our portfolio of hotels, there are more chain hotels, and I don't think personally that they will go out of business. Not if we have this worst case scenario coming up. Then of course I'm more and more worried. But right now I think we don't see that across the board, at least for the ones that have been healthy and operating on a good margin in the past as well.
And I see big hotels chains struggling just as much, sometimes even worse than individuals. But on the other side, they have the great advantage of having access to capital in a much easier way than privately owned properties, obviously. Yeah. So and Bart just mentioned that many chain hotels are based on franchise, and then the franchisee owners might go bankrupt, right? That is an indirect factor, but but maybe the last question, because we are running out of time, and that's a mean question, obviously. As you're offering software, will Trustyou do something on the pricing?
Always happy to talk. Whoever posted that question, he or she should hook me up later, and then we can talk about it. It's like, okay. I think in general, I don't know if I have 30 seconds. Like, I think we'll bring out in the next couple of weeks. We'll bring things to the market that are even for free. So for new things that will really help them if they are open up. One thing, because we're a survey company, feedback company, we'll also launch something along the way of can we launch a survey for cleanliness and things like that, that we talked about, for hotels to tell us what they do, and then distribute the data to our network of hotels like Google and others, and then match that what they say they have with reviews from the web and see if there's a match and people agree with what they're doing. So things like this we're doing to try to help the industry, on the one hand side the users, on the other side the travel and hospitality industry, cope better with the situation.
Great. Ben, it was awesome having you on stage, on the virtual stage. Thanks for making that. And I know by the way, I know I owe you guys an email, and I was so busy with my event that's happening.
No worries.
That's happening right after this event or tomorrow.
Take your time.
Holiday, so sorry for that, but I had a bit of a busy time. Apart from that, again, thanks a lot. For the first time, we're actually having a few minutes in between two slots, so people might want to take a break or a 2-minute toilet break. Ben, thanks a lot to you. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Really interesting. Really interesting.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Beer delivered. Okay. It's half the Radler, so it's half beer, half lemonade. Huh? So
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Okay, so I think it's 2 o'clock. So it's and there's always 5 o'clock somewhere in the world. So right. So
in times of Corona, that
exactly perfect, man.
Don't care about.
And bye bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Take
See
care.
you.